able to handle it, we would have been a little farther ahead than we are. But in that 10-inch pump, like that's certainly got the power to do it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that came with a price tag.
Rick has been able to pay off his royalties for the year to Troy and is starting to feel better about this year's haul. Despite beginning his season 2 weeks later than everyone else, he is proud to say that he and his team have been moving along very well and have been working at full capacity. They have their hopper feeder in place and working through their pay dirt steadily. His goal of 1,000 gold ounces for the season is more urgent than ever now that he has a clear path ahead of him with no debts hanging over his head. The failure of last year cannot be repeated, as he failed to meet his goal and barely broke even. Rick plans to put some gold in the safe as the gold prices have shot way up.
This is great. I mean, 206 ounces,
Man,
that's awesome. If we just keep going deeper, and that's just going to get better.
That's the next challenge, right?
Yeah.
He needs to turn things around this year or find a new career after past failures. Rick commiserates with his other crew members, saying that the past year felt like they were moving dirt around for fun rather than mining for gold. The past 4 weeks have been spent making their way through the cheap cut, where the gold is all found on the highest layer of dirt, practically sparkling in the sun. As they reflect on their mistakes and their work this season, they identify their biggest problem for this year. Their newest recruit, Mark, informs them that they are almost out of pay dirt from the cheap cut. This means that they have no pay to feed the wash plant, Rocky, and no gold to collect. Even the new guy knows that with only a day's worth of cheap cut pay left, they are going to have to look for new ground to sluice. An experienced gold miner, Rick knew that this was a problem that would come up sooner rather than later. So, Rick has been looking for a new area to mine. This pressing need for more pay dirt has fed the drive to explore the area and find new ground to mine. This urgency and success in the cheap cut has renewed Rick's passion for gold mining. He believes that his many years of experience have given him an edge and skill for this kind of gold and pay dirt prospecting. As Rick stands surveying the land, he points out piles of dirt that he feels could have the best gold content they've ever encountered. He points out a corner in the area that he has high hopes for, noting how all the dirt is piled up together. But why does he feel that way? Well, 20,000 years ago, on Lower Duncan Creek, a glacier once pushed up a mound of rock and dirt, known as a moraine, to the edge of the cheap cut. Rick believes that this blockage has trapped gold all up against it over the centuries. All gold that has washed down from the mother lode. If his theory is right, he has stumbled across a buildup of gold that has been growing for ages. Rick gathers the dirt and rock from where he believes the glacier created the moraine and puts it in his panning bowl. His belief is that this could be the best gold they found all year, and with the price of gold only increasing, he would make some of the largest profit margins in recent memory. He carefully pans the dirt in the nearby water, and he determines that he needs to see at least 15 to 20 distinct colors in the pan to make the area a viable location. Extending the cut is a decision that could make or break his career at this point.
You pull that big rock out of there?
I did, 2 of them, building Stonehenge here.
Where you start hitting those big boulders like that, like you're in the right spot.
The Ness crew at Duncan Creek is busy extending the cheap cut, trying to determine whether Rick's hunch is correct. Mark keeps adding to a stockpile of pay dirt that is meant to keep the wash plant running. They cannot afford to shut down. However, a problem arises when they lose water pressure over at the wash plant. This is extremely frustrating as it feels as though the team is being delayed and set back every single day, unable to catch up. The leak in the water pump is quickly spotted and tells them they have to shut down operations for the day until it is patched. All of this downtime is a huge red flag, so they decide against fixing the leak and instead replacing the water pump entirely. Carl brings in the backup and they hurry to install it with the help of a crane. The replacement won't start up, causing their hopes to come crashing down. Rick Ness needs to calculate whether his decision to extend the cheap cut will pay off. Before getting to the numbers, Rick makes small talk and eases the tension in the room. Part of being a leader is tending to one's subordinates, and that's something Rick doesn't forget. Finally, they get down to business, and Rick pulls out the scale. To reach their gold weight, Rick would need an ounce of gold per 100 yards from this extension of the cheap cut. They have run over 7,000 yards, and Rick needs at least 70 ounces from this venture. The gold is carefully poured onto the scale, and it measures well over 70 ounces, reaching 82.37 ounces. This is a fantastic showing, especially because gold prices are up at a massive $1,750 an ounce. This means that Rick has mined $144,000 worth of gold from the cheap cut extension. His hunch, combined with his knowledge of the history and geography of Alaska, has paid off in a big way. This is Rick's biggest haul of the season. Everyone is left amazed, as they have never seen such a good cleanup with their own eyes before. Rick reflects on how they never came anywhere close to this last year. It seems that his theory about the moraine was proven correct, and he found an amazing cache of gold.
At this point, it's only numbers like that we need. They kind of got to keep going up, so.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot more of it out here, right, on this property, so.
A few more hauls like this, and their season will go very smoothly. It also eases concerns that their late start in the season would irrevocably destroy their chances of meeting their gold ounce goal. It's barely September, and the weather has turned colder, covering the land in snow and slowing down operations for the Ness crew. This is a warning that the end of the season is around the corner, despite everyone believing they should still be experiencing autumn weather. Rick is upset, as he believes his wash plant, Rocky, should still be running at this time in the season. However, after helping him bring in his biggest gold ounce haul in the season only a week ago, his wash plant, Rocky, has shut down unexpectedly. The weather will not allow for water to run through the machine without freezing and disrupting the equipment. This didn't stop the team, but the more they tried to push the wash plant, the slower it would go. The longer and longer lengths of time it takes to use the wash plant end up costing them more time and money than just shutting it off. Rick comes to the hard decision that Rocky is done for the year, and now all efforts have to be focused on their second wash plant, Monster Red. While Rick understands that striking out on his own is risky, he thought the rewards would be worth it. A lot of people doubted he would be able to survive on his own like that, but so far, Rick has been able to prove them wrong. However, now with one wash plant down and the weather getting colder by the day, he is starting to have doubts. This is only his third season on his own after leaving the Klondike and finding the big gold in the mountains. Rick has invested a $250,000 deposit to purchase his claims, but the end of the mining season is creeping up, and he still needs 550 ounces to reach his target of 2,000 ounces of gold. Over the walkie-talkies, Rick gets a message asking him to check out a situation the crew is having with water. Rick races down to a massive pond of water where his worker is meant to be smoothing out the area. He tells him that they are going to need to get a pump to remove the water and give them access to the pay dirt below. After digging for over 2 months, the Ness crew are 170 feet down in the Rally Valley.
We finally got our hopper feeder in, and I paid off Troy his royalties for the year, so that feels really good.
This valley is completely filled with water, making it impossible for their equipment to traverse. The high-grade pay in the Rally Valley is something that the entire Ness crew is relying on to save this season and career. The 6 feet of water is a huge obstacle that will take time and money to remove. The pump is working, but the valley has only flooded out again, even with the work put into clearing it, setting them back even further than before. Rick's pump is only 6 inches and is no match against the estimated 6,000 gallons of groundwater currently flooding the valley. The water is leaking into the cut every moment. They realize that their plan is ineffectual and that the water pump doesn't work correctly either. Rick remembers that the Taylors have a 10-inch water pump sitting somewhere in their own equipment stash, and the only issue Rick can recall it having is that it has not been used for a couple of years. Their next step is to plumb up the hoses and place the equipment into position. Rick is worried since he knows they don't have much time left, and they need to get to the pay dirt as quickly as possible. The only thing standing in the way is the aider. Chris, a member of the Ness crew, explains that now that they have the 10-inch water pump, they will hopefully get this water cleared and the land dried out soon. Rick managed to drill the hose into place and tells the crew to fire it up. To everyone's relief, the pump turns on. Powered by a giant 465 horsepower dozer engine, the pump is said to be able to empty an Olympic swimming pool in just 70 minutes. This is around 660,000 gallons of water in over an hour. Rick points out how they can see the water being sucked out from feet away, and the hose spits out gallons of water in moments. This is a huge improvement to the wimpy 6-inch water pump that only made the flooding worse. Rick believes that when they arrive in the morning, the valley will be ready to be sluiced and the dirt relocated. The ability to shift their attention from the water and back to the gold is a good sign that they are making progress with this season's gold ounce goal.
Oh, I don't know why I'm so nervous. It's the first one of the year.
You seem a little giddy.
I am. Well, all right, I can't talk anymore. I gotta go.
Let's make it rain, boys.
Woo!
The next day, Rick greets his crew in the break room, in higher spirits than before. They have lost 2 days fighting the flooding in the Rally Valley, all while trying to avoid letting the recent cold weather from freezing them out of the rest of the season. Shutting down operations would be disastrous at this time. It is crucial that the Rally Valley delivers them the gold they need. Rick is still reflecting on where things went wrong, and he regrets that the first water pump did not work, as it would have saved them a lot of time that was wasted in bringing in the second pump and having to install it. They are grateful to have found the second pump, but now Rick reveals that it came with a price tag. Rick spoke to Troy, and according to him, he did not mind lending the water pump as long as Rick was willing to purchase it outright. With no other choice left to him, Rick had to pay $40,000 for the 10-inch water pump. This sets them back even more, as they now have to calculate the amount of gold they need to pay back the expense of the second water pump. Nobody is too upset about this news, as they needed the pump desperately, and they would not have been able to find another in time to dry out the Rally Valley. Rick pulls out a water bottle filled with gold and says that he believes by the weight of it that they have made quite a bit of money, and that their hard work and purchase of the pump will pay out. Then he takes out another water bottle filled with gold that he says is worth $100,000. The scale is set up, and they start pouring in the gold. To hit the 2,000 gold ounce weight goal for this season, they will need to mine a whopping 550 ounces of gold before they pack up for the year. The scale slowly fills up with gold, and the final weight comes out to 106.9 ounces of gold. Rick then adds the 106 plus 100 gold in the other bottle to a total of 206,000 gold ounces mined. When calculated, this would give the gold a total of $370,000 combined. After this count, Rick only needs 300 ounces of gold to reach his ultimate season goal. If the Ness crew is able to protect Monster Red and keep it running even in this foul weather,
No secret, Rick spent a lot of time and money chasing after big nuggets last year on a hunch. I hope this isn't last year all over again. I don't need that.
they may be able to save the season after all. This is a huge accomplishment, given that they were delayed for days. Rick is sure that if they just keep mining deeper into the Rally Valley, they will soon reach their goal with even more gold to spare. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed Rick Ness's biggest gold hauls and his comeback into the gold mining industry. Let us know in the comments what your favorite part was. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Gold Rush content, make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to turn notifications on so you never miss an update.
I just get a feeling there's more gold here. The way this material is piled up in here, I think the best stuff that there is could be at this corner.
The highly entertaining Gold Rush is all cutthroat gold mining and determination by some of the best miners in the industry. The compelling series takes us to see how Rick Ness has struggled to bounce back and take hold of his business, but things are off to a rough start. However, with Buzz on the scene and working with Rick, things may take a turn for the better for both men. Buzz Legault is driving a rock truck with great skill, but it isn't at the side of his longtime boss, Fred. Instead, he is driving through an unknown road when suddenly something unexpected stops his truck's movement. He responds quickly to this malfunction and begins pulling over and exiting the vehicle to search for the reason behind his unwanted delay. As Buzz examines the rock truck, he first has the suspicion that something was wrong with the tires. As he walks around the truck, he mutters to himself in annoyance and explains how much he dreads to think something could be wrong with the rock truck's transmission. If the transmission is no longer working, the Ness crew can kiss any ideas of using the ancient rock truck for their work goodbye. It is humbling to see how even Buzz, with all his skill and knowledge of this equipment, is not arrogant or uncaring when faced with the need to fix what's wrong with this dozer. Buzz is fearless as he crouches under the rock truck and examines the undercarriage carefully for the reason of its error. His careful examinations soon pay off when he notices that a couple of joints holding the drive shaft in place has been shorn off. The hard terrain and dangerous Alaskan paths can sometimes damage the vehicles with the rough environment and impact jarring the delicate parts of the machine. This is a huge issue because if Buzz cannot fix this, he will be completely out of a job. Not to mention how Rick will lose out on a ton of money if he isn't able to get back to sluicing gold. When someone's livelihood depends on their tools, this kind of error can be devastating. This entire ordeal has been extremely frustrating for Buzz since he has just finished fixing this problem with this rock truck, and now he has to readdress the problem for a second time. This is the downside of working with out-of-date machines.
It blew up pretty hard. You can see right here. I can put my hand inside the motor. And here's what's left of our piston. It exploded.
They constantly require maintenance that is time-consuming and expensive. Of course, the bright side of this situation is that Buzz knows exactly what to do to fix it. He explains that if the drive shaft is not connected to the rear end, then the truck will not move. His first challenge is to get his hands on the necessary parts and put everything back together. A time-consuming task when the team is under a lot of time constraints this gold mining season. Another issue with fixing this recurring problem is that it's a two-man job, meaning the necessity of pulling someone else away from their work. Of course, when one person in the chain is affected, so are the rest of the crew. This will only set them all back even more, cutting into the little time they have to mine the gold needed for the season. For this reason, Buzz decides to ask the camp's cook for help. Here we meet Travis, who is seen picking up some busted U-bolts that are needed to hold the drive shaft in place, allowing for the power from the motor of the dozer to arrive at its destination in the front and back tires. Travis is happy to present these bolts to Buzz, and they immediately get to planning their next moves. Working together, they head over to the rock truck, and Buzz pulls apart the drive shaft, and they quickly replace the broken bolts with the new ones Travis has collected. The rock truck's engine gives power to the rear wheels, but the problem is that they have found that half the bolts have shattered somewhere along the way. The drive shaft is now totally out of alignment and unable to feed energy to the tires, meaning that the rock truck cannot move even an inch in this condition. Even if moving the truck was an option, it would be unwise to do so, as it would only damage the delicate drive shaft further, denying them the chance to fix it and keep working. As Buzz and Travis work under the rock truck, they identify that one of the bolts they used as a replacement is not the right style and that it went into the wrong hole. This realization has forced them to replace the new bolts all over again before they damage the inside of the drive shaft. The incorrect bolt has already cut the threading inside the drive shaft.
It looks like now we've got one that's wrong bolt in the wrong hole,
So Buzz has to re-thread the hole so they can replace the bolt with a factory-approved piece. This setback has Buzz clearly upset because this has been a careless and amateurish mistake. His bad mood does not stop them from fixing the drive shaft, even if it takes longer than planned. As Buzz climbs back into the rock truck, he tests the engine once more. Everyone relieved when the rock truck seems to be moving even smoother than before. Ness sees Buzz heading his way inside the old rock truck and is glad to see that they are getting back to their schedules. It becomes apparent that he was aware there was an issue while he was busy at work. However, when Buzz and Rick greet each other, Rick says he doesn't even want to know what was wrong with the rock truck in the first place, since he is just relieved Buzz appeared in time to fix the issue and help out. Buzz jumps right to work as Rick finishes the last of his stockpile. With the rock truck running smoothly again, Buzz will start hauling pay dirt and helping Rick reach his gold ounce goals for the season. Back in Rick's own dozer, he can be heard giving Buzz his flowers and expressing how happy he is with how the situation was handled by Buzz. Rick is particularly impressed by Buzz's ability to problem solve and get back to work so quickly. His achievement of both transporting and fixing this old equipment, as well as his ability to think ahead, convinces Rick that Buzz is the kind of guy he wants around. The Ness crew is back at camp after Buzz fixed the old rock truck, and Rick has begun to work on the second stockpile. He has been able to keep the plant running the whole week. They all relax with some drinks, and Rick tells Buzz that coming from Fred, he did not have much hope. He also comments how much he appreciates all Buzz has done, since he was able to get that old truck running for them against all odds.
There is pressure here. There's no doubt about that, especially just being two of us. But for the amount of work that had to be done, Z and I made quick work of it and got this plant fired up.
And he hopes they will be able to see some gold come out of those efforts. Rick explains that while he does not know everything that went on over in Fred's camp, he does know that they were not having a lot of luck gold mining out there. Rick then asks Buzz what he would think of coming over to his crew. Buzz is extremely moved and sounds choked up when he laughs and says that it would be like leaving hell behind and to having so much more with Rick's team. He explains what he means with his next statement, claiming that in all his time working for Fred, he has barely made enough money to cover his personal expenses. With that emotional offer out of the way, the Ness crew gets back to business and weighs out the gold they have managed to squeeze out of the inhospitable land. To cover all his costs, Ness needs at least 20 ounces of gold a week. As they measure out the gold, they arrive at a final weight of 23.8 ounces of gold, which equals a total of $46,000, bringing them a few ounces over their needed weight. They are delighted by the final weight, and Buzz mentions this may be his biggest haul of his life, commenting how it's well over the biggest haul Fred's crew ever managed to achieve. Rick sees this as a great start for them and assures Buzz that they have only just begun. He quickly calculates that altogether they have brought in around 65.2 gold ounces so far this week. Rick expresses that he is very happy with what they have achieved this week, and that all he needs is to keep bringing in more gold to put into the bank. He elaborates on his future plans, telling the crew that he intends to hire more crew and get more machines to cover more ground and acquire more gold. He explains that with the crew's help, he sees this dream being within reach.
Yeah, look at that nugget right there.
Oh, buddy.
It looked really good.
As Rick stands, he tells the crew he wants to make Buzz's entrance into the team official. He hands over some dark t-shirts to Buzz with the crew's name on it, officially marking him as a new member. Thank you for watching until the end. Make sure to comment down below what you think of Rick's $46,000 gold haul and what your favorite part was. If you would like to keep up with this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on.
Yeah, this is Rick Ness. Yeah, I think you got something of mine. Listen, I know that you took my 10-inch suction line, all right? No, I know. No, hey, listen, no matter, hey, no, you listen. You took something that belongs to me, and I want it back. This
Rick Ness has struggled to make a comeback after taking some personal time off, but now Rick is up against rivals in the area who would see his destruction. He has discovered a neighboring miner stole his only suction line that feeds vital water to his wash plant. Without it, Rick has no hope of getting on the gold. How will Rick face off against thieves? In this cutthroat industry, any wrong move could see his career and life destroyed.
You're not gonna believe this. I found a suction line. Where? Some here on the other side of the mountain took it.
Rick is driving down a very muddy and wet road toward his worksite at high speed. He is in a state of emergency. When he jumps out of his truck, he immediately pulls out his phone and tells the person on the other line that he knows they took his 10-inch suction line. He is cursing and arguing and tells the person on the line that he needs to listen. Insistent that he knows they stole his property, he raises his voice and tells them that he needs his stuff back. After asking around, Rick has discovered that a neighboring miner has stolen his only suction line that he desperately needs to get his operation going. Without this vital piece, he cannot pay back his debts or get back on his feet. A wash plant cannot operate without water, and that is what the suction line provides. After his phone call, Rick begins calling out for his best friend, Z, and telling him that he found out a guy on the other side of the mountain took the suction line. Rick explains that his source of information was Kyle, who worked for him last season. According to Kyle, the guy who stole the suction line had been asking around for one, and later, he saw the thief searching around the area where Rick's suction line was left. Z is stunned that anyone would just steal like that. Rick is having a hard time controlling his anger, as he says he cannot stand stealing, and he promises Z that he will get back his suction line. Rick runs to his truck and goes racing toward the neighbor's worksite. On his way there, he comes across a pair of men driving toward him in a big SUV, and he pulls up next to them, both their windows down to communicate. When they disclose their identities, their faces and names are blurred out.
I'll turn around, you can follow me down there.
And we learn that they are not the thief from the phone call. Rick tells them to follow him back to his site. As the two strangers drive around to follow him, Rick turns to the camera and says he knew the thief would not have the guts to see him face to face, so he sent his 2 employees to return the suction line for him. Rick says he is trying to control his anger because he just caught a glimpse of the suction line on the trailer and it is all messed up and smashed. If the suction line is unusable, then he plans to drive straight out to confront the thief in person and knock his teeth out.
I'm trying to keep my together right now because I just saw it on the trailer and it's all up. If this ain't usable, I'm driving straight out there. I'm gonna knock his teeth out.
This entire situation has been testing Rick's patience like nothing ever has before. When he gets out of the truck to examine the suction line more closely, he starts to laugh in anger when he sees the condition of his property.
Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. It's destroyed.
In an effort to calm down, he goes over to Z to describe the condition of the suction line, describing how even the basket is destroyed. We learn that the hose has been crushed flat, and they use duct tape to try and piece it back together. Rick storms away in anger, and he uses the excavator to remove the suction line and basket off of the truck bed and just lets it clatter to the ground. After that, he yells at the quickly disappearing SUV of the thieves and tells them that he is going to pay a visit to their boss soon.
Tell your boss I'm coming for a visit.
Rick is still fuming, shaking in anger and adrenaline as he stares at the junk they brought him back, and he wonders why they would even send it back when it is clearly unusable. Rick turns to Z and tells him he thinks they should go up there and get a new suction line from the thieves, but Z advises him to calm down and look at things rationally. Rick is stubborn and says that he is owed a new suction line from them and won't let this issue go. Z agrees that they are owed better, but their situation requires them to choose a path that would be the quickest, safest option, and then they can deal with the rest later. Z tells him that he should just ask to borrow a suction line and wait to cool off to deal with the thief. Rick thanks him for his sound advice, and they both get back to setting up their wash plant. After that intense confrontation, Z and Rick get to work, sluicing some stockpiled pay dirt from the Rally Valley cut. The two of them have made quick work of the pay dirt, and things have been going very well for them. As they scoop in the last bit of pay dirt for the day into the wash plant,
we also see the bedrock contact coming in here. And in between, I think, is the paleo channel.
Well, that's perfect.
Rick explains that he's just excited and relieved to see some gold being gathered after too long a journey to even get started. Rick pauses the wash plant and takes a close look to see how much gold is sitting in the box. He finds it difficult to see through the dirty water, and Z thinks there is too much dirt filtering through the plant. And if even he can spot the flaws in their operation, he considers it a very bad sign. A few tense moments pass where neither of the men spots any gold in the wash plant, when finally Z locates a chunk of gold. They bask in a moment of pride and reflect on what a difficult journey it has been to get to this moment. Rick passes Z the first bit of gold they found and says that it's for him to keep, because he's so thankful for his hard work and dedication. Things are looking bright for Rick Ness. Over at Duncan Creek, Rick Ness is on top of the world as he clears overburden out of the creek cut so that he can have a large stockpile of pay dirt constantly feeding his wash plant. He is feeling confident about this because this cut helped them reach their goal last year, and he hopes it will pull them through to their goals this year too. Only 5 weeks into the season, and he has already mined 250 ounces of gold. This is Rick's fastest and most lucrative beginning ever. The only issue he has now is that they are running out of pay dirt from the creek cut. The consistency they've been experiencing will soon run dry. According to Rick, they only have around 4 days worth of pay dirt in the next strip, so to progress, they need to expand their operation and spend more money. As the workers load up more pay dirt for the wash plant, they notice that Rick looks to be ready to announce something. Rick tells his crew that they need to move locations soon and that he has picked out a place upstream hoping to get similar results.
I hate to make guesses and I won't, but I will say that it looks good. It looks really good. Like some of the best I've seen it in that box, so.
If the pay streak from the creek cut continues under the 26 acres of frozen ground to the west of them, it could hold over 1,000 ounces in gold. The biggest problem with this plan is that there is permafrost in the area, which means that it has never been mined. However, they have never dealt with permafrost before. They crew decide that they'll use the new dozer to tackle their permafrost problem. This will cost quite a bit of money. The dozer cost $500,000 and burns $2,500 of fuel a day, which amounts to the same operating cost of all of the other equipment Rick owns combined. However, this dozer was built to be able to open up ground with frost points. It pushes 2 rock trucks worth of dirt in one scoop. The dozer weighs over 300,000 pounds and begins to sink into the soft dirt. This causes the operator to slow down and eventually become stuck in the dirt. Rick is called to help pull the dozer out of the deep mud. Rick is worried by this delay because it is necessary for him to keep stripping land, and any delay could cause his entire operation to stop completely. The removal of the dirt begins, and Rick believes that as soon as he digs out all of that soft soil and mud out of the way, the wheels of the dozer will get more traction and allow it to move forward with ease. His focus remains on getting back to work as fast as possible. As Rick digs, he and Brennan coordinate to avoid any collisions between the two massive machines. Rick manages to remove the last bit of mud, and the dozer is free. The quick rescue leaves them in good spirits, and they hurry to get more pay dirt ready. We hope you enjoyed some of Rick's best moments on Gold Rush. Thanks so much for watching. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.
There's 40, going 50, awesome. 60, 70.
No way.
82.37.